Hi, my name is Gisabel Sariol. Welcome to the Systematic Soul Podcast. I am a grief recovery specialist and angel therapist. Today we'll be talking about how wounds help you become an expert. Welcome.
Hola, Gisa.
Hola,
Bienvenida al
Gracias.
podcast.
Gracias por tenerme, Marielena, de verdad.
De tu casa.
Gracias.
Qué alegría verte, de verdad.
Sí.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
Well, so tell me a little bit about the thing that you're doing about grief.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
Yes.
So I started my grief recovery work a while ago. I would say about 6 years ago. And due to a loss that I had, it was a friend that actually was murdered. I didn't realize how that affected me, how I carried that grief and PTSD really with me. So I decided to seek a little bit of help, and I ended up actually studying it and becoming a grief recovery specialist.
Wow.
But obviously my journey started way long before that, as you know. I know Marielena for, 14 years?
Something like that, around there.
Exactly.
Yes.
So basically the grief recovery work that I do helps people with their grief. We all going to experience grief at some point or another. A lot of people are a little bit confused with what grief or what type of grief, they're going to experience. They usually associate death with grief.
Correct.
Or loss of a relationship. But people are really surprised to find out that we experience at least 40 types of griefs.
Wow, 40.
In our lifetimes.
Wow. So can you tell me in order what is the...
There's so many. I mean, loss of a cat, loss of a pet, loss of hope, loss of faith, loss of obviously of a loved one, loss of a job. In my grief recovery work, I studied obviously the effects of a loss of a pet in the job market and how much United States loses money in the billions when people lose a pet.
Wow.
So these companies that recognize that hire grief recovery specialists because it will help with their profits.
Yeah,
people
it's like any counseling.
Exactly. People, like any counseling, people take off of work when they lose the pet. It's really devastating to many. I mean, affects their performance at their job. So yes, I mean, it's an important...
Interesting. Okay. So what is the difference, for example, because I know depression has a lot of symptoms, right?
Yes.
That we know is you can Google and it's easy to find out. When you said about grief, it is just different about the symptoms of depression. So how can you see the difference?
Well, grief is very personal.
Okay.
It can be.
It can be.
It can be like the same symptoms as depression, loss of energy, loss of, hope, like I said, happiness, joy.
Appetite.
But everybody processes grief differently. And that's what's super important, to respect everybody's grieving process. You can't say to somebody that lost, let's say, a child, I'm sorry, I know how that feels like.
No.
Even if you lost your own child, because you don't know how they feel. Or, and that's a common thing people do. I know how it feels. And that's the worst thing you could tell somebody, because everybody grieves differently. Everybody has their own process. There's no such thing. I know there was, and I know everybody's heard it, where they go through denial and then they go through, I forget the order of it, but when it comes to grief, there's no, she even apologized, and I forget her name right now, that came up with that order of things. And she was referring primarily with death more than anything else. But there's no such order for everybody's individual.
It's so personal.
It's very personal. Grief is personal. So basically, to understand grief, you have to be somebody, not just study grief and study the different types of grief that we all can experience. I feel that a person that could help you process grief is a person that has experienced grief in their lifetime, many types of grief.
Correct.
And has the ability to learn the ability to bounce back quicker.
Correct. Like you learn different tools in order to move on.
Exactly. Acquire different tools. So I think the ability that I have is not just that I study grief and I became a grief recovery specialist.
Correct.
It's a lifetime of losses, devastating losses, and bouncing back from those losses, and how I handle it. And I think me and you spoke about this before about how people with that have a wonderful relationship. Let's say you met your husband at a young age, and you had one person, and you have a fabulous marriage. That person probably is not the expert in relationships.
Correct.
Because they haven't experienced different types of relationships. They haven't been with a narcissist or the married man, or they haven't dated different types of personalities. And see what I mean?
Yes.
So the expert is in relationships is the one that has been in multiple relationships and learned from them.
Correct.
Right? That's with everything. And just like a good grief recovery specialist, usually you become a grief recovery specialist because you identify your griefs, which we all experience.
But because it's energy. The grief is a deep energy that you share with somebody. Exactly.
You identify that what your traumas as a child, and you work on those traumas and the grief, and now you have these tools to help somebody else.
Okay.
So
yes, I realized when I'm doing the workshop in family constellation, the therapy, most of the time show up people that was excluded from the family, and it is because the family didn't grieve enough.
Exactly.
So the grief, it is it's very, very important energy that the system has to leave. You cannot skip it.
Exactly.
Because if you skip it, then you're going to be in trouble in your mental health.
Exactly. Yes. So I totally understand what you're saying, because I did family constellation therapy with you.
Correct.
See? So when I say it's it has been a process for me. I won't talk a lot about the grief recovery method, what it includes, but it does include something like that. You have to first handle your grief from your past.
Correct.
In order to understand the current grief. So it helps you dig that out, process that one by one in a method. There's a method to it.
It is, no?
And then
step by step.
It's a step. It's a form. Yes, it's a method. And then you're able to release. Not that you're going to forget about a person or forget about the event, or you're going to understand it.
Correct.
You're going to see it differently, and you're going to be able to move on without carrying it. People walking around with grief, with unresolved grief all day long. They go with unresolved grief to another relationship. They still haven't processed the grief from their childhood, from their first boyfriend. See what I mean? They haven't processed grief when it comes to friendships. They experience a loss, or they got bullied as a child, let's say. So they're walking around with this trauma that they haven't processed, and then they project it on other people. And they go to relation projecting other. So that's why it's good to dig. So family constellation was super important to me. And I think I've been guided. It's incredible. I was guided throughout my life, in different stages of my life, and miraculously have people come in my life like you, right? That have guided me to different types of therapy and in different stages of my life.
Correct. Like different tools that
and acquired exactly
you learn.
I acquired different tools, and then I acquired the grief recovery method tool. But before that, I had to acquire a bunch of tools. See what I mean?
Yes.
So I think the combination of that, it's what's helped me
to be
what I am now.
Right now there.
Exactly. And right here, right now.
Great.
So
Great.
It has given me also the ability to process grief quicker.
So what do you think was your, I think the most important grief that, I mean, you cannot compare, I know.
Exactly.
But what was the most difficult to you to process?
I think childhood trauma. I think for many, it's the most difficult to process, or relationships. Trauma for people is also very personal. What might be traumatic for you might not be traumatic for me.
Correct.
Right? So there's you could experience you could come from a family system where you lacked attention and affection and things, and that was traumatic. That could have been traumatic to me. I lacked attention, let's say from my father's side, because he didn't understand that. So now I seek attention, and I reject attention from people that are too readily available to give it to me because I don't recognize it. It might seem foreign to me.
Especially like when we grew up in a Latin family.
Exactly.
And you're the only daughter. So how they're going to treat you,
Exactly.
The father is going to treat you not in a good way because it's the machismo,
Exactly. Or it could be from your mother's side too. From the Latin family, or and we're generalizing. Obviously not every, family's like this, but let's say in generalizing in our culture, the Latin mothers, and they make comedies about this. They tend to really cater to their boys, right? And the girls are just like, okay, now you go pick up the dishes and do the dishes. And then they'll turn around to the boys and say, oh, my little baby, like it's the opposite.
Correct.
So it's like,
yes.
So that could create kind of a trauma, and then a different dynamic when it comes to relationships. See what I mean? So just identifying my childhood traumas and really confronting them and seeing where it's coming from, what happened to me, that was, I think, healing that was the most difficult.
Well, like every psychologist say, the first 7 years of our life are the most difficult, because we just absorb everything. So of course, to bring out all this trauma, like I just said, it's a grief.
Exactly. It's grief. You process, you start crying. You don't even, it's traumas that you can dug them so deep inside, and then you have to take them out and recognize them, and it makes total sense why you were behaving like this, why you were projecting things on people, or you were perceiving people in a certain way. And it was a traumatic experience from childhood. But people spend lifetimes in therapy for this.
Yes.
And what the grief recovery method does is way shorter.
Great.
A way shorter method, because we don't have time right now.
We don't have time.
We don't have time. We don't have time to spend years in therapy.
Nope.
I think everything is moving and evolving so fast that we have to acquire our own tools. Our own
That's
tools.
exactly what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
Just share our tool with everybody. I'm not more than you because I'm a psychologist, or you're a counselor, or you're, therapist. It's just we have a box with the tools. Let's share
our tools. That's funny that you say I'm not more than you, because I just had a little bit of an argument. Not an argument, or I have a friend that actually confronted me, and she felt that I was projecting that I was better than her in something, and I was shocked.
No.
And I think is when I think she was projecting on me.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? She was projecting some insecurity on me.
Of course.
Because I was explaining to her, in the subject of narcissism, you know, I study this and I experience this and I experience this. So she took it like, you're always going to make me feel like you know more than me.
Yes. People take it personal.
Yeah, they take it personal.
A lot of people.
So you have to be
very careful.
Yes, very careful.
Yes.
Very careful.
Sometimes the people are not ready.
They're not.
So I know it's interesting in my case because I feel when the people are ready to receive information, but it's intuition.
Intuition.
And it's so strange because a lot of people ask me for appointments and I said,
you're not ready.
Can I call you back? No, I don't say that. I just I'm going to refer to another person because they're not ready to listen the short way. The people want drama.
Mm-hmm.
They like your friend.
Exactly.
You know, they want to let me tell you and let me continue and then you start to talk. You know, like you were doing, and you think that you are more than me,
and they attack you.
Exactly.
They attack you right away.
Exactly.
And it's just a projection of their own insecurity onto the other person, and we're projecting all the people walking around using projection, and it's all unhealed wounds. Everything, all of it is unhealed wounds. So it's a process. I mean,
it is a process, and I think the only way is to be the wounded healer.
The wounded healer.
That's
exactly what I am. The wounded healer.
Yes. I am too.
Yes.
Because you became a master or shaman or healer because you were wounded.
You were wounded.
Period. And then you have the knowledge.
And
the wisdom to talk.
Like we just spoke at the beginning of this, it's the person that has the experience is the expert, or you know what I mean? It's the expert in that subject. So I knew at an early age that my karma was matters of the heart, love and relationship. And I came to heal that. And not just like romantic relationships with friends, family. I mean,
any relationship, any bond that we create.
So I think I came to heal and be wounded so I could learn and then use that to help others, basically. So it's been a journey, because I say that, and you've seen part of that journey in the last 14 years.
I did.
Yes,
indeed.
Am I the same person as 14 years ago when you met me? Am I the same?
Yes.
You think?
You are totally, I mean, are you kidding me? You are a diamond right now.
Yes.
I mean, I was, when I met you, you was like a stone, and then now I can see an amazing diamond in front of me. So I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
So which one for you in your first relationship or your second, I don't know, it doesn't matter what is the number, but you feel that was the most
my school, my university. Which one was my
exactly, like we're not gonna say names, of course, but that you have to use more tools in order to move on.
That's a good one. That's a good question.
It's like I don't know, boyfriend or ex-husband, or who was the person that I know that there are more people, because we know about the childhood. Everybody has a childhood traumas.
Yes.
And in a different, levels. But in your case, that now I can see a beautiful miss right in front of me, who was the person that really, really moved you to wake up in a spiritual way?
Yes. Wow, this is a difficult one, because I was in a point in my life where I thought, I've learned so much. I know, I've got so much respect in the public eye because I accomplished certain things socially and in, professionally. So I thought I knew so much about how to handle myself and how to. I was already a grief recovery specialist. Basically, I was in a point where I should have known better, right?
Right.
And I got into a relationship when this person was not available, emotionally available or available, still had ties to his wife. His ex wasn't divorced yet.
To the family system before.
Exactly.
But you don't make the close.
Exactly.
You cannot move on.
Exactly. So it was against everything I believed or everything. I would never. I will never me with somebody that never, because I saw this growing up. You see what I mean? I saw this.
We always
I
say
was
that.
above that, I was above this. So it really humbled me. So,
and that's the only way, by the way.
It's the only way. Exactly. So I knew I wasn't a bad person. And obviously, you know my heart. I know my heart. I knew I wasn't trying to harm anybody. See what I mean? I was trying to love somebody from a wounded place still. So it was so many losses during that relationship all at the same time.
Yes.
It was so many. I experienced so many losses. Loss of reputation, loss of love, loss of relationship, loss of a job,
income. I mean, it's a list.
I felt ashamed.
Yes.
I felt guilty. So loss of pride. I mean, there's pride is another loss that we could have,
a self-esteem.
Self-esteem,
more than that.
Loss of self-esteem is one of the 40s. All of them that I mentioned.
Exactly.
Loss of
self-esteem
was the biggest thing. And then I felt like I let people down, especially my own daughter. See, I let her down because this is not who I am. So I experienced so many losses at the same time that if I was not prepared with the tools that I had for that moment, somebody else would have handled it differently.
Correct.
They would have gone into a depression.
Thanks God you have that, your studies about grief.
Yes, my grief studies and all the experiences and all the work on myself that I done and all the tools that I got from meditation and family constellation. I understood why I was coming from that place. I understood why they were coming from that place, where everybody that was in that mess that I got myself into.
Yes.
Or we all got ourselves into. Or maybe it was divinely ordered so I could graduate, basically.
That's very, very important.
Exactly. So
because you can see the system of the person, where he's coming from,
where he came from,
know who he is.
No.
So the family system that is holding him. So you say, okay, I cannot judge this person.
I cannot judge him.
That's part of,
exactly, because he came from that and he's acting like this because of this, and that person acting like this because of the attachment they have to this person. And I mean, I just understood if I didn't have those tools or everything I acquired, I would have fallen into depression, and I could definitely see why people would end up even taking their lives.
Yes, that I see that every day.
You see, and I see it every day. At that moment, I understood this is exactly where people can lose it. I lost everything. I don't know where to go.
Yes.
All because of maybe I thought it was a poor choice at the time. Now I understand, of a poor choice I made when it comes to love and relationship.
Yes. And what is interesting is that picture, we need to learn how to realize that it's just an hologram. It's just an illusion.
An illusion.
That it doesn't work for us. Not anymore.
No, exactly. So I was amazed at myself how I dug myself from that in the time that I did, as quickly as I did. And that's because I had the tools. I took out my toolbox and again, working. Like, hey, no, I knew what to do immediately so I wouldn't fall into a depression. I knew I had to move because I learned that and I acquired that tool. I knew I had to start being grateful for the things I had immediately. The things I didn't lose. Even if it's the air in my lungs, I'm still breathing.
Yes.
I still could get up.
The little thing that we take for granted.
Exactly. I started being grateful for all those little things. I remember, and it kind of makes me a little bit emotional.
It's okay.
My niece, I'm very close to her. She just turned 3. And she was a baby at the time, obviously. She was a little, I remember, I'm so grateful that I have a niece. I never had a niece. You know what I mean? So in that time, because at the moment I had time to spend it with her, I got so attached to her because I just noticed her movements, her little baby
you were
things.
Lucky to have
her near me.
Yes.
And have my family near me. And I was grateful for. I started being grateful for just being able to hear her and touch her and just
listen.
Enjoy her trying to walk and, trying to be in the moment. So I knew I acquired that tool to learn how to be in the moment immediately, learn how to move, learn how to be grateful for those little things, create a schedule right away before I fall into depression and get to action. So... And those are things, like I said, that I learned throughout every stage of my life.
So you think if you had to pick the most important characteristic that we need is to be humble and brave?
Yes. Humble, brave, or courageous, and self-aware.
Self-aware.
I think... during that time, I didn't blame anybody. I didn't say this. I did and I didn't. I said, this person is evil. They did this. Or this person,
Yeah. You didn't become a judge, like a...
No. I did for a second say, why did this person? But then I stepped back and said, what did I feel? Why did I do this? How did I attract this? And what was my role in this? I immediately became self-aware.
Okay. That's the self-aware that you're talking about. Okay.
Exactly. Self-aware of your role in everything that happens to you. Not that you're blaming yourself. It's just... Responsibility.
Okay.
So that ability I obviously acquired in my different stages of losses in my life, different relationships before, or I remember conscious uncoupling. That was another thing I did.
Okay.
That was years ago, 6 years ago or more. And that was another tool I acquired by Catherine Wilbur Thomas.
Okay.
It's a program where, and it became famous. I did it before it became famous. I think Gwyneth Paltrow, and when she separated from the guy in Coldplay, the musician. Okay. She spoke about it and it became, very well known that she did that method to consciously uncouple from him, and it changed everything. I already had done that before she even did that with my previous couple.
Wow. And it's like you have that gift.
Exactly. Well, I did that program. Okay. With Catherine Wilbur Thomas. And I had that in my toolbox. When that happened to me, I also had that. See? So, and I immediately took it out. It helps you become self-aware of your role in every relationship or in every loss or your role in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was just my university there, everything coming down at the same time.
So if you have, for example, a client that is coming to you with any grief, what do you think is the first step?
Self-awareness, like we spoke about.
Okay.
Just let's talk about not what he did to you.
Okay. No, exactly. You are not a victim.
You're not a victim. Exactly.
You are not the victim.
You're not the victim.
Okay. So first of all, don't feel the fear, because fear is when you feel victim. Look at me. I'm less than another person, so we have a victim and perpetrator, right? That's the move.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, okay, you are not a victim.
Mm-hmm. And that's great, because in that episode that in my life, that my university, like I said, that relationship, that was one of the things too that I kept, because I was self-aware, saying I cannot stay in the victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot. I'm not the victim here. Like I'm not. And people spend years and years being the victim.
I mean, people pass all their life
being a victim. And they did this to me, and they did that to me, and they did this to me. So when somebody has a devastating loss in relationship, the first thing is becoming self-aware. And your role in it, and you're not a victim. Even though you don't see it immediately, you eventually start seeing that you saw it coming. You just ignored it. You saw there were red flags from the beginning. You just ignore them.
Yes. And I'm self-aware about what do you create? I mean,
exactly your role.
Mm-hmm.
Your role in it. What do you create? What was your role?
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you live that too?
Yes. That's the main tool in my toolbox. Whenever, and it should be in everybody's toolbox, in anything, in work, let's say loss of a job. One point you saw it coming. It wasn't just like, yes, they are people that are unfair. They are people that they haven't worked on themselves, and there's a lot of envy and jealousy and things like that outside. You can't control that. They're projecting too. They're walking around with grief.
The low vibration that we know.
Low vibration, unresolved grief. They're walking around. You can't control that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just control yourself and your self-awareness, So even with loss of employment, loss of job, it's becoming self-aware and grateful for the things you still have.
Mm-hmm.
That's another great thing. Immediately grateful for the things that you do have.
Okay. Had you ever feel like your ancestors were there supporting you?
Always.
Okay.
That's another tool in the toolbox. Throughout the years, I worked with that. I worked, I guess, in the spirit realm.
Mm-hmm.
How that affects us. How everything that has to do with spirituality, basically.
Yes.
That's another big tool.
And you told me one day, I feel my tia,
Yeah, my aunt.
Yes. Like she's there holding me.
Exactly. So that's another, whole another subject when it comes to spirituality. Everybody has their own beliefs, obviously. But I have a strong belief that there's energies of our ancestors with us, and that they're guiding us. I always had a strong connection with her. I always felt the presence. And in my most difficult moments, the moments that I've been the most alone, I felt I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I felt her. And there were signs, and we could get into that in another podcast, but there were signs that there were.
You feel in peace.
I mean, from signs from somebody coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I'm a medium.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel this person, I believe is an auntie,
Mm-hmm.
literally come to me and say that. I broke down. Like,
Yes.
that was the thing. I think I spoke to you about that at once
Yes.
some time ago, but that was the biggest thing
Yes.
for me, just
Like she
confirmation.
died years ago, right?
Years ago, like
Mhm.
10 years ago,
Yes. Or
Mhm.
more.
right?
Yes.
This
Wow.
is more than that. Wow.
You were very attached to her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, our ancestors became our angels.
exactly. So I did become an angel therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another tool in my tool shed, toolbox.
Wonderful.
So that was years ago as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly has helped with the part where when you're grieving, you feeling that you're not alone.
Yes. Yes. Because we are one, so it doesn't matter what, if you use angels, you use ancestors, you have something that is beyond that.
Beyond,
It's the force that is holding
bigger than
you.
me.
Exactly. They are there
Mm-hmm.
holding you.
Exactly. Doesn't matter what you call it, but that's another subject with the whole angel therapy that helped me.
So they use a different name for angels for anything in a specific, or have to be? How do you use that part of the therapy?
I think it's both, but like you said, ancestors that become angels, and then the angels that we recognize as angels.
Okay.
See what I mean? Is studying everyone and studying how to identify their energy and when they're around and when they are around, I guess.
Can you feel them?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And the more you communicate, the more
they show up.
I always tell a story of a confirmation for me.
Okay.
I always carry around a little pendant, and it's an angel pendant. And it's been in my purse, or I put it on my body somehow for the last 8-9 years. When I started with the whole angel thing and the angel therapy, but I was in a plane and I'm petrified of planes. I'm petrified of flying. I always, I'm anxious when I fly. And in this particular flight, it was very turbulent, not turbulent. We didn't even take off. What am I talking about? It was very complicated. I was with my daughter and they were having mechanical problems while we were in the plane. We were sitting there for an hour in the plane. And I was a little nervous about it. I'm already scared as it is. And then once we started taking off, all the lights started flickering. And we had to like kind of land again. It was, and they still had us in the plane. And then I started praying and saying, close my eyes, which is what I do all the time. And I imagine 4 angels in the front and the back and in each wing of the plane. And, Archangel Michael, Gabriel, like take these wings, fly us to safety, fly us all to safety. That's my little prayer, whatever. So as soon as I did that, they come and say, hey, we have to move you to another plane.
That's a miracle.
Yes, we did. They moved us. We were there sitting in the waiting area. And then I look down and I find the angel pendant.
Wow, you see?
So I
confirmation.
thought, confirmation. It was gold. It's gold, pure gold. Right on my feet. I'm on the phone letting the person that's supposed to pick me up at the airport where I was going to, I think it was New Jersey at the time. Hey, I'm not going to make it. It's incredible. I'm so glad though. I don't want to be in this plane. I had a bad feeling. And, I started praying and then I looked down and the pendant is there. So I'm like, other people, some will miss it, will miss the message. But since I knew, I didn't miss the message. I knew I took it.
Yeah, because you're awake.
I'm awake, exactly. I took it with me and cannot fly without it, basically.
You're without it all the time.
Yes, especially when I fly.
That's great. That's great.
So just little things like that that lets me know we're not alone. So that's one of the tools in my toolbox when things like this happen or devastating losses. I know that there's something guiding all of us and we're not alone.
Yes.
Even when you feel the most alone.
Yes.
We're really not.
Yes. That one thing very interesting in my when I'm working, I see a lot of women with depleted or very angry because divorce or my boyfriend leave me or anything. But I realized men's has a very, very different grief.
Yes.
And
it's tougher.
Because they don't talk.
They hold it.
And how can you approach if somebody comes to you as a man, but they don't want to talk?
You can't.
But yes, but they want to open to you, but they go like this in a different direction in order to open a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes, I get it.
But
now.
you feel, because you're very intuitive, that man he needed some
help.
Yes, and some tools that you had already.
Mm-hmm. So basically, this person, it's not very talkative about their emotions, but he needs my tools or he needs help. They need to be ready, and of course, they're going to have, I've seen that too, they have a harder time. Men culturally are conditioned to hold it in. They not seem weak. And that's why, truly, I believe right now, there's so many men that cannot commit they're scared little puppies. They really have a lot of unresolved grief.
Because they have all grief.
They carrying around from previous relationships, a divorce, devastating loss, and they cannot express how bad, painful it still is, and they're projecting that on other people. That person's going to do the same thing to me.
Exactly.
If I put my heart in their hand, they're going to do the same thing to me. The person could be completely different than their exes, or they could come with the best intentions and a pure heart, and they cannot because they're carrying on this grief.
So what do you recommend, for example, somebody comes to you like that?
Yeah, so the first thing is we have to dig deep, like and any type of grief that you're experiencing, we're not going to handle that grief. We have to go through the method, and we have to look in your past. What made you want to hold that grief and not express it? So you have to go through that first. You have to identify. And there's a timeline. Like I said, I can't go over.
It is a timeline. Yes. That they want to skip that timeline.
They want to skip it. They want to say, maybe I've been conditioned to not express my grief because my father didn't give me affection.
Correct.
So we have to go there.
Correct.
So you could be open to expressing your grief or to talk about it and work on this.
Or, for example, if I said, you are the man. You are the man of this family.
You're the man.
You're not allowed to cry.
Exactly. You're not allowed to cry. So it creates this. So now in the grief recovery method, it helps you identify that because we help you create a timeline. Okay. And I start with myself. Correct. And I start with my timeline. So everybody could open up. Or the person I'm helping could open up. This is my timeline. And at this time period, I had this happen, and this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened.
Yes, you had to be naked and show
exactly. My vulnerability. So that's the word. They're not able to be vulnerable because something in their past made them like that, and they're carrying that grief too. They haven't resolved the grief of that past. That doesn't allow them to be vulnerable. So you have to go back to that before we can even touch this.
Yes. And
So,
that create a safe space
exactly.
for both.
Exactly.
Yes.
So first we have to handle all those different types of grief that you went through in this timeline before you can even do that.
So it is very important, I think, right now that created like a I don't know, like this kind of work that we're doing and put it online to teach men's in a I insist in men's because I feel so bad for them.
Yes.
Because we, as a woman, we talk with everybody. We cry.
But that's one of my tools.
Exactly.
To talk to everybody.
You know,
express it.
Yes, Gisabel, let's go to have a drink. I will cry in the bar, or whatever, you know. But I mean, I feel so a lot of compassion because who is gonna see them?
Yes.
Nobody.
They
I
stay with
look, you know, I go to work, I'm a man, and then they skip it, and they skip it. So that's the reason they high in statistics. You can check that with your brother. He's a medical doctor. They have more heart attacks than women.
Oh yes.
They have more cancer. They have they die before women. They aging faster. And my idea, I think, one of them probably is not right, but
no, it is completely right. Emotions affect your physical.
They're holding a lot.
They hold your emotions affect your physical being. You know, and we know that. We could get into the Reiki thing and this energy thing, and you know what I mean. And
yes,
but that's another subject. But one of the things I learned, and also in my toolbox, is not to hold on to those negative emotions. If it's anger or resentment or things like that, because I know it's going to affect me the most physically. You know, and you spoke about my brother being a physician, a doctor, but we're so opposite, right? Because he does understand that the men, you know, they suffer from more heart attacks, and men are statistically more likely to die quicker or younger.
Correct.
But I understand why, and you do too. So you're saying it right now.
I am.
I understand, you know, and they might look at it like, oh, stress. Yes, not only stress.
Where is coming from the stress?
The stress is coming from, if you're able to express yourself and say, you're able to relieve a lot of stress too. See, so.
Yeah, because I have some friends that say, why you are so, care about men a lot more than we.
They're suffering
and
more.
I said, because they don't talk. You don't know nothing about what's going on in his heart. No, but they are, you know, start the judge part.
Of course, judgment, yes.
And that's the easy part. Like a Carl Jung said, judge is so easy because, you know, you have to think in order to don't judge.
Exactly. You have to be aware in order to not judge. Exactly. And that's why relationships, I think, is so hard nowadays. And women complain, oh, men are, you know, they call them all kinds of bad words.
Oh, yes.
And nowadays, men are this and men are
have
that.
to come just to bring the money or just to bring the, you know, money to home or the, you know, that kind of stuff. And but can you see his heart, for example?
Can you see they're not aware why they have unresolved grief they're carrying around from past relationships, past traumas. They didn't grow up with their dad was an alcoholic.
Exactly.
They didn't grow up with their parents. They grew up in foster care. Or
the father was a narcissist.
Or father was a narcissist. Or the mother was a narcissist.
Or the mother even worse.
Being a narcissist is even worse. You know that. So that's another subject too.
Yes.
So
it's another podcast for
another podcast.
Yes.
We have to do a few of them.
Exactly.
But yeah. So, you know, acquiring all this knowledge about different things, narcissism, how it affects when it's your mother, how it affects when it's your father, how helps you to look at people with more compassion in relationships, and when they do things to you, directly to you, helps you, you know, identify or look at them with more compassion, I guess. So yes, men are, like they said, maybe less emotionally available right now.
Correct.
And I know because I've been out there after my divorce, after my engagement and stuff like that. I've been in the dating scene.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. It's interesting
Yes.
to see.
I admire you a lot about how your daughter, how she is and how you were coping with the relationship with your ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the father of
my daughter.
So it's amazing all the you have to be so smart and have a lot of tools to see that,
Yeah,
so
to co-parent and actually get along, and we all get along. And his daughter, I babysit his daughter with his new wife with so
beautiful.
it takes, some people criticize it. I guess I'm like, that's not normal. I mean, that is normal.
It is part of the family system.
It's part of the family system, and she is too, because that's my daughter's sister.
Correct.
How am I, not going to show her love when it's my daughter's sister? It's just a beautiful thing to see that she has a sister.
Yes.
See?
Yes.
And she runs to me. She has a name for me. It takes, I think, a lot of awareness too, but it wasn't easy to get to that type of awareness. It is not easy because... And I'm still not there as aware, as we should be. But
yes. But your ex-husband and you, have a different dynamic to raise your daughter, or you talking and you were doing it because she's already a woman.
Yeah, she's 17. I don't want to even think she's a woman yet.
Yes, she is. She's very smart. She has a scholarship to study. I think she's doing great.
I know. I'm very proud of her, but I think
she never suffered any trauma from parent
that was my main
divorce.
thing. Even though I gone to trauma, and I feel that was my karma, coming here to learn, acquire these tools, and grow from this, and master healing, and master relationships. I do believe she didn't come with that, and she chose me as a mother. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And my main thing with her, it was to be completely open and say, and this is something you taught me, this is not your destiny. This is my destiny.
That doesn't belong to you.
It doesn't belong to you. Yes. What I had to work on my mother relationship and say, your destiny is not my destiny, I made it easier for her because I was aware. My destiny is not your destiny. And not that saying I had a bad life. I mean, I accomplished a lot, and people, so, but we all had our difficulties, and that's what my difficulty was, relationships. Not that I'm difficult, not that I'm crazy or what I mean? It's just that I came here to master that.
Yes.
So, and I'm aware of it. See? So I know she didn't. I know she has two loving parents that, although they're not together anymore, we do have a lot of love and respect for each other, and we never showed her anything less than that. That we have each other's support, that she's extremely loved. I mean, I think he's overboard sometimes.
Yes.
But
he made an amazing job.
Yes, affection, a lot of affection, things like that. I even asked her, what do you think if you had to say something I did wrong, or I'm not doing right as a parent? Talk to her like that. What do you see? That what would you change of me as a parent? And she'll say, Mom, nothing. You're great. I'm so happy you're my mom. Not everybody has a mom like you. Things like that. And then she never said anything negative, although she might pick fights with me. Of course, a regular teenager, So it was just very important for me to be completely honest. Mama, listen, this relationship didn't work out with this person because he didn't make me his queen.
Wow.
I wasn't his queen. So I just want her to have that self-esteem. He needs to treat me like a queen. You know what I mean? So I wasn't his queen. So we're not going to stay somewhere where I'm not a queen. So
she's in a relationship now.
Yes.
Wow. She is 16?
17.
17.
Oh my goodness.
So tell me a little bit about the school and how she's doing.
She's doing phenomenal. She's extremely smart. Like, she wants to study medicine, and she's, I mean, she excels. She's a officer of all the southern schools in Florida. She was voted officer. Like, she had to do a whole campaign with her partner. It's like, and give speeches. She gave a speech in what's the high school name? The one that they had the shooting at in Boca. I don't remember the name, but anyway, it was amazing. I'll send it to you. Okay. So she had to go there, and she's vice president in her class. I mean, I couldn't even ask for anything more. She has the whole regular teenage thing. She's social too, and yeah, she has a boyfriend, and they've been together for over a year already.
Very stable.
Very stable.
To be a teenager.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
definitely, I see them and it reminds me of my first love. Obviously, I was together with him for like 6 years. My first love. I married my second boyfriend, basically.
So you see your daughter like the result of everything that you ordered, your family system, and you see that is holding her.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is the main thing about, and you taught me that, and we learned that in family constellation. That it's so important. I think anybody that's going to go in a relationship or marriage, especially if it's a blended family, to take that type of therapy.
Yes.
Family constellation.
Especially this country, because we everybody's immigrant. Then
everybody's an immigrant.
Okay, and we came from different culture.
Exactly.
So if you don't respect the root from your husband, and the same with us, right? Yes. It's not going to be success in that relationship, because we need to see that you as an immigrant, I respect and honor you exactly as you are. But we are very different. So that's a very important key in any relationship.
And when blending, when you're from different cultures and have different, children from different family, and there's a lot of blended families, that's why they have such a hard time, because they cannot put everybody in their place, which is such a great tool to know. Okay, my kids, my children go in front of me. My husband's next to me, and
my ancestors
behind me. So everybody has their place, and your children are not gonna take your spouse's space. You gotta honor that space. This is my wife. This is my, she has your best interest, and I trust her that she has your best interest. So now they're gonna respect her, not try to take her place. There's no jealousy. I mean, it's just so important to do this type of therapy, which it completely, let me just tell you, opened my eyes and everything. I understood.
Yes.
Even all the traumas passed on, and how relationships don't work when they are blended. Or even when they're blended, when you're marrying somebody or with somebody from different cultures, how they cannot work sometimes.
Yes.
And they don't have a good sense of where everybody belongs.
Correct. So, sometimes just say to a client, if you have conflict with your husband, just imagine the mother and the father, the mother at the left side and the father at the right. And when you are talking to him, imagine that his ancestor supporting him in the back. And then they call me the next day. This is magic.
It is magic. It's
it's
very spiritual, that type of therapy. And
it is respect. You are respect where he's coming from. Sometimes we start conflict. It's because his ancestors are in front
of him. They're the ones talking. His ancestors are talking for him.
Or could be the conversation that when he grew up, the mother and the father,
the conversation, that he heard. Exactly.
That he heard, and he's repeating with you as a woman, as a wife or couple, no? So as soon as you do that exercise, the men take the control, the energy, unconsciously, of course.
Yes, everything's unconscious, yeah.
But the energy starts to move on because 95% of our behavior is unconscious. So it is so important to respect that in a man.
Yes.
And the man to the woman. No, it doesn't matter what country you're from.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, you that you're from Dominican Republic and America,
mm-hmm.
You understand that the kind of energy that I'm trying to say.
Yes, definitely. It's being a U.S. born and having parents from another country, from Dominican Republic. It's such a different culture in how they handle relationships, you know? So it was so important to me, that therapy, because I was raised that way. I was hearing the conversation between my parents whenever I had an argument with my partner, which was from a different culture, usually white American or like, Caucasian or wherever they came from, European. And they didn't understand why I wanted this. And that was the conversation that I heard growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So now I was putting like you say, my ancestor in front of me.
And you didn't realize.
And I wasn't realizing they're the ones talking, not me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a subconscious thing. So that type of therapy helps you in your subconscious. You know what I mean? So
yes.
It's so important. And I think that tool, now that I know it, is what I try to not do with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Even though sometimes I do sound like my mother. Like she says, you sound like your mom.
Really? Because I come from there.
I know, exactly. But it's it's an important tool.
Okay.
Definitely, that's helped me with my daughter, and I think that's why the whole goal is to stop it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't transmit it to her and to my grandkids, hopefully in the future, or to so just to stop all that karma and all that, basically karma. Just stop it there.
Yes.
So that's the goal.
And for the grief process too, because as soon as you say to the person, look, this even with pets.
Yes.
I was working with people with pets to say, look, that pet is next to you all the time.
All the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, it is.
So people feel it right away when you said that phrase.
Yes. Yes.
So it is. It's working with everything. Any kind of therapy, angels therapy that you're doing right now, and family constellation, because everything is quantum energy, and now that we can prove that every cell is like antenna, you know what I mean? Like I have a little thing that attract energy.
Exactly. And we could prove it scientifically that we transmit trauma through cell. I mean, so that's why it's so important to heal that trauma and to heal grief, because my unresolved grief about, I don't know, that relationship,
then you can pass it to your daughter,
and everything that created, I'm going to pass it on to her. On the contrary, after that devastating loss that I lost everything at the same time, when I thought I was in the peak, at the peak, I could do no wrong. I was the best at what I did, where I was working. I was confident, or I felt confident, and everything came crumbling down, right?
Yes.
If I maintained that grief, my daughter, that was going to affect my daughter. It was incredible to see. That's when I realized, after a time passed by, that all the tools I acquired, including the grief recovery method, that's what saved my life. And how quickly I turned things around and blossomed and did better than before.
Yes, and save your daughter.
And save my daughter and save myself.
And the next generation, your grandkids, and so on.
And I was turned it around. And if it wasn't for those tools, I would still be suffering and blaming people and feeling low and unworthy right now.
Exactly. Because the suffering are coming because you gave it the power to everything that is outside of you. That's the real root.
Yes.
And when we realize that there's nothing outside that can affect your peace, people are like, what? Yes, you are a creator.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what you did in the past, or what you think you done, the guilt you carry, you just let it go. You have to let it go, and that's part of the grief recovery method. And like you said, you feel sometimes unworthy of peace, unworthy of things, unworthy of me having this because I did this or I did that. That's
part the guilt.
The guilt.
By the way, we are not guilt of nothing because we are innocent.
You didn't know better. And now that I know better, I'm going to do better. I think Maya Angelou said that. When you know better, you do better. So at the time, even though I thought I should have known better, internally, it was incapable of doing better. See, I still was missing something or wasn't feeling worthy still after all that work. See what I mean? So
the angels have a good communication with you.
Yes.
I see that.
Yes.
Amazing. Wow.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Marielena. I'm so happy you invited me and gave me this opportunity.
Yes, and please start your podcast because
I know you insist. I have so many people.
You're gonna help. We need people like you that you can share any tools right now because the humanity is full of these people suffering for no reason.
For no reason, and I think my specialty would be women that have been abused emotionally and
domestic violence.
Domestic violence. I think that'll be my niche because they're so attracted to me. They come and tell me their problems and things like that, and I think that's a sign.
You attract everything because that's exactly what you were.
Exactly what I learned. Thank you so much, Marielena.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
And your time.
Thank you.